Welcome to the Shattering Black Male Stereotypes Masterclass, where my intention is to empower men of color to live extraordinary lives. I'm your host, Coach Michael Taylor. If you pay attention to mainstream media, you may have concluded there are not enough black male role models. My intention is to dispel this myth and shine a light on some of the amazing men who are blazing new trails in all segments of society. While most people may be pessimistic about the future, I happen to be an irrepressible optimist with a passion for the impossible. And I believe the future is bright, not just for men of color, but for all men and women. One reason for my optimism is there is no segment of society that does not have black male presence. We are doctors, lawyers, accountants, astrophysicists, computer programmers, architects, CEOs, psychologists, chemists, entrepreneurs, and even President of the United States of America. Yes, there are still challenges, but from my perspective, there has never been a better time to be alive on this planet, regardless of race. So my intention is to showcase some of the amazing men and women who are blazing new trails and leading the way towards a future filled with infinite possibilities. One such man is Ashante Branch. Ashante is the founder of a wonderful program called Ever Forward, and he works with youth to support and empower them to reach their full potential. Without question, he is a positive male role model who is making a positive contribution to the world, and it is my honor and pleasure to welcome him on this segment of the Shattering Black Male Stereotypes Masterclass. So without further ado, let's welcome Ashante to the conversation. Hello, Ashante, and thanks for taking the time to hang out with us today. How are you feeling right about now?
I'm doing great, Coach Taylor. I'm really glad to be here with you all.
Well, outstanding. Well, I got to be honest and let you know that I've had a man crush on you for a while, and I'm not ashamed to say that. You know, you've inspired me, and I'm truly impressed with the work you do. I followed your work and listened to your TEDx talk and listened to you on a couple of online summits. So it's a real treat to finally meet you and engage in a conversation with you.
I'm glad to be here, man. Thank you so much. That means a lot. That means a lot.
So before we jump into talking about your program, I want to begin with a few icebreaker questions. So first of all, where are you from originally?
Oakland, California.
Oakland, California. Where are you at now?
I'm right now in Oakland. I'm downtown. Right now, physically, I'm in my office downtown Oakland. So I'm born and raised here. I went away for college and then came back. But I'm here in Oakland again.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about your family, whatever you feel comfortable about.
Yeah, well, I was raised by a single mother. We were on welfare for a big part of my life. My father, he died 3 months before I was born. So there was a plan that, my mom was ready to have me. My father was ready to be a father. And 3 months before I showed up, everything got changed. And so growing up in Oakland, my mom was here in Oakland, and then my grandfather, her father, was here in Oakland. So, I had him as a role model to kind of look up to. But it was challenging because my grandfather was like the pastor of my church. And so he always gave me really good moral guidance, but like, he didn't really tell me how to deal with the people that want to take my bike, right? He didn't really tell me, he didn't really teach me how to have an edge. So I was really kind and nice and gentle. And I didn't have that because I had no man around really like saying, here's how you carry yourself in a way like that. So I had just a really strong, loving mother who taught me I was the oldest, so I was in charge of everything at the house, I was the man of the house, so I was responsible for trying to figure it out, right? So I grew up with this idea that my life was not how I wanted it. Like, it was like, what's going on here? Why don't I get a life like the other people who got both parents and they have more resources, and why are we always broke? Like, why can't we never have nothing? I can think of like the smallest thing I would ask my mom for at the store. It was always no. It was like, can't we have no gum? Like, well, why is it no for everything? Like, and I think it was the small stuff. And I think, having to go to the store with the food stamps, was just like demoralizing. And, I remember going to a store and like getting out of line like 4 times because I didn't want people behind me to see me pull out this Monopoly looking money. And I was just like embarrassed. And so standing in line for peanut butter and cheese, like just like the things that I think back to is like, they definitely have made me who I am today. but in the moment they were like totally they were difficult. And I think that, you know, there were lots of opportunities to go out and make quick money in Oakland. There was lots of opportunities to do behaviors that didn't really feel right, but I knew they would solve a problem. They would solve one problem. They would solve a financial problem. My mom, she really just like, she was all in. She was always in my business, always in my, checking my backpack, checking my pockets. Like she was like, always like hyper vigilant about making sure I didn't get sucked into some of that stuff. And I'm really thankful for her for that today. A lot of my friends were in that other stuff, you know? So, you know, middle school was rough. You know, middle school for a lot of people was rough. But it was even more rough because I was like, you know, I think I'm a little smart, but when you're in middle school, people I was hanging around, smart wasn't really cool. So you just act the way you think you should act. And then finally got my act together. A teacher just pulled me aside and she gave me detention. And she said to me, you know, life doesn't give you what you want. Life gives you what you get, and you have to make the most out of it. And that teacher, I'll never forget. That sentence, that day, absolutely changed my life. And I think me making sure that I wasn't using my father's death as an excuse, but as like a launching pad to say, look, I don't know what my father would have wanted me to be, but I want to at least make sure that when he looks down and see his son, that he says, I'm proud that's my son. You know, I shifted my thing from being like an angry little black boy, not knowing any other way to be. Just, I was angry, but because you couldn't be sad. Like growing up in Oakland, like growing up where I grew up, like you can't walk around sad. So you turn everything into anger or funny. And so I didn't know any other emotions or how to deal with stuff that I was feeling until that teacher like gave me permission that it's okay to like feel sad about what happened, but I don't get to stop here. Like, you know, I gotta take whatever happened to me and use that as the fuel to make the life that I want to have. And that's what I'm really thankful for. So when I got to high school, I was on track, and that's that. Then I went off to college. So that was, you know, it was a journey of like not being on track and then getting on track and like really being focused. So that's my life kind of going.
You know, and it's really amazing because our stories are so similar. You know, I was raised in a single parent home. There were 6 of us. I remember the food stamps, the cheese, the powdered milk, and all of that. So I can definitely relate. We're sort of kindred spirits in a lot of ways. So I really resonate with your story. So let's jump to the next icebreaker question. So name a movie that you love and tell me why you love it.
Ooh. Man, I got a lot of them that I love. I think a movie that I've watched probably more than any other movie was Good Will Hunting.
Oh, yes.
And I think that was because this young man, really smart, brilliant, hanging with people who he doesn't show his brilliance with. They know he's brilliant, and the fact that they, you know, as the movie progresses, they push him out of their little circle because they know that they're not going off to do any amazing things in the world. You know, they're construction workers, and you know they're his friends. But they're one of the men told him, "Look, if you're here in 10 years doing construction," he said, "I'll punch you in the face or something." He's like, "How dare you waste this talent?" He said, "I don't have the knowledge you have and the skills, and you would do a disservice to us as your friends to sit here and just be with us because you are afraid to leave us." Like, and I think that I resonate with that movie a lot in the sense that I have friends in high school who knew they weren't going to college, and they knew I was, and I think they saved me in a lot of ways. Like when a party was about to get out of control, like they're like, "Ashante, you got to go home." I'm like, "Man, I'm gonna be here for the party, right?" Like, go home, right? And I'm like, and I was mad, I was angry, I was like all the things about it. I'm like, I want to be in the mess. They were like, no, this is not your mess. Like this is you going off you have to go off and do something. I think a lot of times in my life, I remember them just like pushing me to like, because I think sometimes I probably would have made some bad decisions. You know, I would have hung out too long at the.
Uh-oh, you locked up on me. You there? Uh-oh. You locked up on me. There you are. You're on mute.
Okay, am I back?
There we go.
Oh yeah, my computer just thing went across the screen. It was like
What happened?
you're interrupted. Your session has been interrupted, and then it like kicked me out. So
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. All right, so just kind of pick up where you were talking about your friends saving you.
Yeah. Well, good thing it's not live, right? So we can.
Right, exactly. I can edit it and fix it, so no worries.
So the movie Good Will Hunting was really powerful for me because I think that it just resonated with having friends who pushed me to be my better self, and then it gave, as I saw him having permission to work out that stuff, like, you know, I think that scene where he just cries and he's just like going through it, like I never had a place for that. I never had a place to do that. I think growing up, I think about it, the only time I ever had a place to cry was like in my room, like with my face in my pillow so no one would ever hear it. But it was never a space where some man was holding space for me. Because I always wanted a father, you know? And I always wanted a father, and never having one, it made it really hard. I always felt that gap. So every time I see that scene, I'm like, man. And I think that's what has helped me to really guide the work that I do, is because I wanted it so bad, and I want to make sure that young people today, have a space to do some of that healing work, you know?
Yeah, and that's what we're going to be talking about here in just a second. So a couple other questions real quick. Now, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Okay. I think it's doing some interesting things. Was it okay for you?
Yeah, you sort of blinking off. I don't know if you've got a bad connection or your internet's slow, maybe.
That's what it's saying. I'm trying to, yeah.
And I can, like I said, I can edit this, so
okay.
we can get it going. So we can do it in sections if needed. So if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Oh man, 20 years old. I was in college. Wow. I think so I was in college and I was majoring in civil engineering, and so like you couldn't have told me that I was going to go into education. So I was like, I'm an engineer. I'm teacher. You tripping? Teachers don't make no money. So I think if I look back, I would have been like, I think me becoming an engineer had to happen, but I'm trying to wonder if I would have told myself to follow your heart earlier, right? But I think I needed to experience what I experienced in order to really have a story that is like, I wanted to be an engineer and now I became a teacher, but it was that journey of like trying to figure it out, like being in the wrong career and then having your heart figured out. I don't think I could have figured it out when I was 20 because I was really intent on being an engineer. So I think just one thing I would tell my 20-year-old self, and that's like keep your mind open for new opportunities. Like I think like now that I get to do a lot of speaking around the world and like country for sure, I wanted to do that a long time ago. And I just shut that part of myself down. Like, nah, who are you to be a motivational speaker? Who are you to help inspire others, right? You're barely figuring out this engineering thing yourself, You got a 2-point-something GPA. How are you going to pump people up, right? And so I think that part of me was like, I let it lie dormant for so long. I get to do it now, and I'm totally fulfilled by it. And I wish I had I had the passion to do it when I was in my 20s. Definitely when I was 20. I was listening to Les Brown like every day. Like he helped me get through college. And so I listened to his audio, his video. It was a VHS tape that one of my fraternity brothers gave me. And I was like, I think I listened to that thing until it like broke. But it was always keeping me in the game, Like don't let somebody.
So the message to your 20-year-old self would be what? What would you say?
The message to my 20-year-old self would say, go for it. Like, don't wait. Believe in yourself more. Trust your heart. I think that's where the messages would come from.
That's a powerful message, really powerful message. Now, there are some people who are filled with fear and pessimism about the future, while others are filled with excitement and optimism. So where do you fall on the spectrum between optimism and pessimism for the future in general?
Wow. I think if you asked me this like 3 years ago, I would have been like totally optimistic about everything. I think where we are right now in our country, it has created some fear, uncertainty. Like I had to look up on the internet a couple of months ago, like what would happen if there was a nuclear war? Like I looked it up because I block you. I think you're on pause. Okay.
There you go. So
Okay.
you're talking about looking up nuclear war, and then you froze up on me again.
Oh yeah. So I was looking at what would happen in a nuclear war, and I was like looking it up, and it's like, oh goodness, like it really would be all bad, right? And then I was like, why am I looking this up, right? Like, but I was. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, you're locking up. Yeah, do you have an iPhone? Do you use an iPhone?
Yeah. Let me try. Yeah. Let me try and just hang up. Let me get on the office Wi-Fi. The office Wi-Fi was acting up. Let me go back on the office.
Okay.
It was the office Wi-Fi was acting up, so that's why I changed over to the hotspot. But every time something happens on my phone, it starts to stop. So I'm back on the office Wi-Fi.
But actually, you can actually do the interview on your phone.
Oh.
Yeah, if you download Zoom on your phone, if you click the link on your phone, it should actually just, and you can do it. You can skip over the Wi-Fi, just do it over your network. You may not have the same problems.
Okay. Let me go to this Coach Taylor. Maybe that will help. Yeah. That's the interesting part of this technology sometimes, right?
Oh yeah.
You're like, hey, good morning.
It happens, man.
Okay, so let me see. This email, okay, here we go. Oh, I gotta go to the email. There's an email from you. Here it goes. Okay, let me see if I can get the Zoom on my phone. I think I may already have it. Okay. App Store, join meeting. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Get. Okay. It's not now. Okay. All right. It's coming. It's downloading right now.
Okay.
And then you're just gonna use the camera from my phone.
No, you're just gonna you're gonna just speak to your phone and you'll just log off on your computer.
Okay.
Once you log in, you can just do the whole thing from your phone, and you don't have to worry about the Wi-Fi issues.
Okay, let me just go in there then. So I'm gonna go to the mail, grab the ID, Zoom ID. Okay.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, you'll just need to set that up somehow so it's kind of stable, so it's not bouncing all over the place.
Okay.
And then just shut off your computer. Yeah, just log off your computer. There you go.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
So, okay, great. Is it clear enough? Is it clear?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
great.
perfect.
Okay.
All right. So tell you what, let's do this. I'm gonna go back. We're gonna start with the question about the Some people are filled with fear. So let me just read that and then I'll just
Okay. Okay, great.
So there are some people who are filled with fear and pessimism about the future, while others are filled with excitement and optimism. So where do you fall on the spectrum between optimism and pessimism for the future in general?
I think I'm really optimistic. And I think 3 years ago, if you asked me, I would be like, I'm totally optimistic about the future. We're having our president, who was really I could identify with. I really just loved every time being able to hear him speak and to help inspire the next generation. And I think lately I've just been feeling a little bit more pessimistic and just like fearful of like life. I did a search a couple of months ago on like what would happen if there was like nuclear war. I remember reading in elementary school, but I didn't remember what would actually happen. And I'm like, why am I looking this up? Like it doesn't feel good to be even looking this up, but it feels like I need to know. And I think our young people who are going through their own life, and I don't know how often they voice how it affects them, how the seemingly political unrest affects them. And so I just have been doing my best to stay optimistic and not let my mind get sucked into the messages that keep coming across the news feeds. I try and like not look at the news feed on my phone. Like I find myself like scrolling to see what news is happening right during the middle of the day. And I'm like, I don't need to even look at that right now. And I think that what I've been really clear about in terms of the work that I do at Ever Forward is that I am not going to stop doing the work. And it's even more so why we need to keep doing the work, like providing our young men space to be able to talk about the stuff that's going on in them in healthy ways, but we're not like ridiculing and belittling others. And how, no matter what messages that the world is showing us, that we have a responsibility to be our best selves and be the people that we want to be in the world. And we can't control any of the other stuff. It's really I think like the serenity prayer. Like, let me accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change the things I can. So I can't change how many times, people in these offices don't take our best interests, our young people's best interests, our some community best interests at hand. It's my job to say, I'm going to keep doing the work that I'm doing because it's important, and just hope that they at some point get their act together,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Ashante, we've just kind of done some icebreaker stuff. So now I want you to introduce yourself professionally. So tell the audience a little bit about who you are, what you do.
So I'm Ashante Branch from Oakland, California. I am the founder and executive director of Ever Forward, Siempre Adelante. Ever Forward is a youth development program for young people in grades 6 through 12. We have 3 programs. We have the Ever Forward Club, which is a mentoring space, a social emotional development space for young men to come weekly, working with a mentor to talk about the things that go on in their life. We also have Ever Forward professional development that we do for teachers, parents, social workers, like community corporate workers. I'm really just giving people an idea of really dealing with some of their mask that they sometimes get locked into in terms of how they have to show up to the world. And then we have Ever Forward experiences, which include our 100,000 Mask Challenge. It includes our college trips for our young people. It includes these experiences that we try and give other young people around the world. And so what we've been able to do is through those 3 programs. When it first started, it was just a club, but now it has grown to have more full service support for schools and communities. And so as an organization, we are doing the best we can to provide spaces for young people so that they can see they can see more of their future. They can see more of who is it they are trying to become, and they can not feel like they're alone and they do have to do it alone.
Right. Now, it is my belief that you hold the key to solving a large percentage of all the social challenges facing our world. I truly believe the work you're doing gets to the core, or shall I say, the cause of most negative behaviors. And the cause is an antiquated masculine culture that drives most negative male behavior. And since men commit the majority of crimes and violent acts, it's important that we create programs that address this issue. And I believe Ever Forward does just that. And your program was featured in the documentary, The Mask You Live In. which focuses on redefining masculinity. So how did that happen?
Yeah, so Ever4 started in 2004 I was a first-year teacher. I just left engineering career to become a teacher. I was failing as a teacher that first year, and I was like, I'm not willing to just sit back and be not good at this, And teachers when they trying to help you, they say, oh, well, you know what, you'll get good after your second year or your third year, and I'm like, I ain't waiting around for 3 years, getting paid this little to then hopefully get better. Like I need to figure this out now. I'm not gonna be waiting for it to hopefully get better. So I invited him into lunch, and I said, look, I'll buy you lunch once a week, exchange for lunch, teach me how to be a better teacher. That's how the Ever4 Club started. I wasn't trying to start a nonprofit, actually. If you told me I was starting a nonprofit, I would have been like, that's not a good idea. It doesn't sound like a good idea, but I was clear that I had to do something more than I could do in a classroom with those young men who I saw were smart. They were really smart, but they were failing. And so what we did is through Ever4, well, as it got started. So I think the question was, I got so excited talking about Ever4, I think I lost the question. You asked me, you said how,
tied in when you did the program, the Mask You Live In.
Oh, the documentary, yes. Thank you. So I have been doing Ever4 for 10 years. I was taking some young men to this Rites of Passage weekend. I took 18 young men from the high school I was at on this Rites of Passage weekend. And one of the producers happened to know one of the founders of the Rites of Passage organization. And when we came out of the mountains, we all come walking out of the mountains, she saw me with all of my young men who I brought in a van. And she was like, oh, my goodness, I would love to interview you and talk to you. We're kind of working on this documentary. I said, yeah, I would. Yeah, sure. And people I always, throughout time said, hey, I want to ask you some questions. I'm like, sure. But I didn't know this was like a real documentary. I didn't know I didn't know what it was. It was just a lady said, I want to talk to you. I said, sure. And then I went to the studio and I did the first draft. And then they said, we want to come see you at your school site. And that's how it happened. I mean, that group they came and videoed at Fremont High School, which is my alma mater, was absolutely, I was nervous more because they never talked about stuff that was going on in their life. Never. Like when we get together in a circle, they would always be like, on a scale from 1 to 10, if 1 is the worst, 10 is the best, they're all 10s. I'm a 10, I'm a 10, I'm a 10. And I'm like, now I was a dean that year, so I saw all the referrals, all the suspensions. Like, you're not 10? You're not 10? That's not a 10. You know what I'm saying? Like, a 10 is not getting kicked out of 5 classes today. That's not a 10, But if you believe that you got to show up in front of other people always being perfect and being like, whatever happened is what I wanted to happen, or I don't care what happened, then you could easily fool yourself to believing that everything is going well. And I was like, well, we got to have them a way of talking about it without talking about it. And that's how the activity came about, because I was like, well, they're not talking about it when we give them a chance to talk. And the documentary, after I saw the documentary, I was blown away because I was in the moment. So I didn't see a lot of the stuff happening around the room at the time, but it was mind blowing when I finally got to see the first cut of it.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Now, did that exposure help your program?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that opened up a lot of doors for us. I mean, I think we've been doing the work for so long, and I think it's all about, I'm not a good marketer. I wasn't out telling people about my work. I mean, people would hear about what we did and they would call or whatever, but I didn't know about marketing and telling the world about our work. And so it really other people began to see our work, and they would reach out to us and they would be like, how can we get that work here in our district or in our school? And I was just always offering people what I did, like how I started it. Because I wasn't trying to create a thing. I was just like a teacher trying to help these young men be the best they could be, And I think that as it began to grow, I began to see that the need out there in the world was bigger than I had. I think I knew there was a need in the world, definitely in the United States, for this kind of work, but I didn't realize how big it was. And I didn't realize that after doing something for 10, 12 years, you have a lot of content knowledge about how to help people also do that kind of work. And I think I just had to get more. It was that message to my 20-year-old self. It's like, don't be afraid of your own greatness. Don't be afraid of your own gold. And I think I was afraid of my own gold for a long time. It's like, who am I to be an expert, right? When people say you're the expert of that, I'm like, I always have to kick myself, and I'm feeling nervous about that. And I think it's that my own work I had to do for so long of having all the answers, but sometimes not feeling like I had all the answers. And I think it's absolutely been life-changing for me.
Yeah. Now, it's obvious to me that you've done a lot of healing work on yourself in regards to getting out of the societal man box and embracing new ways of being and relating as a man. So how did you begin your personal inner journey of transformation?
Man, that's a great question. Wow. That's a great question. So, so I think when I was in college, I joined a fraternity because I was in this place of like, well, this is a brotherhood, and I'm gonna get some tools and some skills about being, being a man, right? And being, I knew I was gonna join the military. I wanted to be in college, and I was gonna, so joining the organization really helped me begin to learn some of those things. But, you know, even through some of the challenging, you know, processes to join, I didn't feel like I had like then landed in terms of like being the man I always wanted to be, right? I had some great men around me that were really helping me and supporting me and pushing me and helping guiding me. Even when even when I like was in college and had sex for the first time, I still didn't really feel after that. Like I was like, wow, this is amazing, right? But I still didn't feel like I was totally like, yeah, I'm feeling like totally like a man, And I was like, there was always these things I was testing out to think that it would help me. I got a car, I had a job, and I was like, something still inside is still these messages and these norms are not like resonating. And so I think, I don't know where it all started, but I joined an organization. I did this weekend called the Sterling Men's Weekend, and that was about like locating the source of your power and dissolving the barriers between you and manifesting that power, like as a man, the man I always wanted to be. And that weekend really helped and I joined a men's team that was like really about dealing with some of the stuff, some of the baggage that I had never had a place to deal with. Like I didn't know that men got together and talked about their stuff. I was like, wait, men get together and talk about their real stuff? Like they get to the gut, the blood and guts of like what's really going on in their lives. I'm like, this is amazing, right? Like I've been looking for this all my life because I didn't grow up with a father who gave me tools of how to express all the things I was feeling in a way that was okay. So I was making it up. I was learning from people in the streets, and I was, doing what my grandfather said to do because he was giving me some guidance around that. But I think I just began to do these weekends, and I did the Mankind Project weekend, which is the New Warrior Training Adventure. And that was another one that was like, holy moly, dealing with the shadow and the things that like you try and ignore and deny and repress that usually comes around and trips you back up again because you're not taking a light on them and dealing with them, but they come back. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I've been doing, right? This is what my shadow is, right? And I constantly just kept looking for opportunities to continue growing and continue like doing some of that work because I had a lot of wounds. I had a lot of father wounds that were not scars. They were still gaping wounds. And every time I talked about my father that I never met, every time I saw a man with his son, I had this like feeling of sadness, like overwhelming sometimes. And so I think I just constantly began to ask a lot more questions of people that are around me and find myself in places where I could be more authentic. I could speak my truth, and other men would be able to hold space for you to do that. Not trying to fix you, but trying to just offer you tools and tips of how you can live your best life. And I think that is what absolutely has changed my life.
Now, it's interesting because I'm also a graduate of New Warrior Training.
All right.
2002. And I'm curious in terms of your experience when you were doing the Sterling Weekend and the Mankind Project, how many other men of color were involved when you were doing this? See, because I already know the answer because you and I are again cut from the same cloth, and I'm sitting here and I'm smiling and my heart is warm because I remember thinking when I was in my New Warrior Training, why aren't other brothers doing this? Because I gained so much value in learning about myself, and that was one of the reasons why I started writing and started targeting men of color for personal growth and development, because there were so few of us doing this work, but yet I knew the value. And I was like, how can we get more brothers to do this kind of stuff? And that's what's really driving what I'm doing now. I'm trying to expose other men of color to these types of programs and processes that are transforming ourselves.
Right.
And the challenge, I think, is, we still live in a society that, it's very racially sensitive. And my experience is that people of color generally tend to go to religion whenever there's an issue, and we don't really want to go deep and talk about the real stuff that's really going on, the wounds and the hurts and so forth. So it warms my heart to have this conversation with you, because number one, we're brothers in that process, but also because I sense and I see the joy and the passion that you've figured out about yourself, which now you're teaching others to do.
Yeah.
And that's just really, really inspiring. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what this whole masterclass is about.
Nice.
Exposing men of color to people like yourself, myself, who's done this work and has transformed our lives. And we're not claiming to be perfect, but what we're saying is that it is absolutely possible for us to live extraordinary lives, to find our passions, but we got to be willing to do the work.
That's right.
That's what Ever Forward is really about. So I'm curious though, so how did you come up with the idea for Ever Forward? I mean, you obviously had done a lot of work, and you've been through a lot of adversity.
Yeah.
And so when did it click that you said, you know what, I'm going to do something? And you mentioned it about, bringing the kids, having the kids teach you how to be a better teacher. But when did it progress till you realize that you needed to create an organization to do this work?
Well, so here's how it happened. So we were Ever Forward Club for like 3 years. Meet every Thursday at lunch, portable 8. Everyone knew how the routine worked. The club grew really big. And then one of my mom's friends, my mom was a teacher also, she said, I want to give you some money, but you need to get your nonprofit status. And I'm like, what is that? She's like, well, you got to figure out, you got to do this paperwork, and you got to get your nonprofit status so that you can, I can give you money, and I can get a write-off. And I'm like, oh, what is I didn't even know what any of that stuff was. I'm like, all right. And so I go to the IRS office, get the packet. I'm like, this is like a book. I got to write a book. And I think I sat on that book for another 2 years, because I'm like, I got time to do that, right? And I think what happened was, so we were just meeting, and this is what she asked me. She said, look, just give me some data. Like, tell me some of your data. I said, what do you mean by data? She said, well, like, give me some of the statistics that were happening with your club. I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm not collecting no data. We just meet every week at lunch. We talk about what's going on in our lives. That's what it is. She said, okay, let me ask you this. How many students have graduated? I said, well, we just had our second graduation class, and all of them graduated. She said, what do you mean? I said, all the young men in our club, they all graduated. Like, she's like, wait, you telling me that you have 100% graduation rate? I'm like, well, I guess if you say it like that, yes. but I wasn't collecting data. I was meeting with students at lunch every week. We were supporting each other. They were supporting each other. They were building each other up. And I was like, oh, yeah, that actually sounds pretty good. I didn't even know. I wasn't doing it for that. I was doing it because I could see these young. Okay, there it goes. It's back. I think I'm back. Am I back with you?
Yep.
Okay. It came out of nowhere, and I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. And that's literally how it happened. And so I found a consultant who could do it. I found this company's organization, grassroots organization from New York, that was helping people get consulting when they, you don't have resources. And so we found somebody who could help us with the nonprofit status. And it was just like one thing after another, and then we finally got it. And so we've been doing the work for so many years already, and we just finally got this thing that now helps us to be able to give people opportunity to give money to us. And so, but we're still kind of figuring that part out. The business side of it, the work, I'm clear about. The business side of it and the scaling part of it, those are the things that right now we're in the process of building out. And like, how do we scale this to bigger and more communities? And so these are just the new level of the work, where you're, I got this to be a mentor. Now I'm an executive director, which means I don't do much mentoring now. So it's kind of like I got into it for one thing, but now I'm clear that my vision has grown, which means that now I have to get better, I have to get stronger, I have to get smarter, and I have to get wiser. I have to get more knowledge, and that's
absolutely. And so I just want to share actually some of the statistics, some of the tangible results you've experienced in your program. For example, you mentioned 100% graduation rate, which is amazing. and more than 90% of your graduates attend 2 or 4-year colleges after graduation.
Yeah.
1,500 plus students and over 500 volunteers have participated in your annual 24-hour relay challenge. You have 200 potential first-generation college students. Let's see, 8 Everforward Club members have participated in life-changing outdoor education trips and mentoring opportunities in partnership with Summer Search. And one graduate actually from your 2008 club received the Governor's Award. Now, these are some amazing accomplishments. And so with the success of your program, you would think that charities and organizations would be lining up to give you money. So is that how it works?
No, actually, I wouldn't work like that. I think what happens was that I've been learning over the last couple of years that if you want to like attract the resources out there to you, you have to be out there telling your story more. And I always just believe if you do good work, people will find you and support you. So I was using a different metric about what would happen. I also struggle with sometimes asking for help. So one of the things I did, I worked in my weekend around my own self is like, what does it mean when I ask somebody for help? Like, what do I think it means about me? What does my shadow say? Well, actually, you must be weak. You must not be strong enough. You must not be smart enough. You have to ask somebody for help. Because when I grew up, I was the man of the house. So who do you ask for help if you're the man of the house? You don't ask anybody. You do it yourself. And so I got those patterns like programmed in my head that I can't ask for help, and if asking for help makes you look weak. So therefore, I've been working on myself around that. And so that's when I think that's been part of it. Now I'm getting much better at it. I'm getting better at asking people for resources and asking them to partner with us. And it's a constant work in progress. I'm still like working on myself around that. But yeah.
Yeah, and I want to give you some words of wisdom. There is a woman by the name of Mary Manon Morrissey. You ever hear of her?
No.
She wrote an amazing book called Building Your Field of Dreams. Name of the book. Yeah. Make a note of it. You need to read it. It's really powerful.
Okay.
But here's the lesson that I got out of her book, and it really relates to what you were just saying. Because like yourself, I have a nonprofit organization that I started, basically doing almost identical what you're doing. And during this process of getting this company started, I mean, I was struggling, trying to find money, trying to figure out how to do the grants and all of that. And when I read her book, this one line stood out, and she said this. She said, number one, it's important that you follow your dream, follow your heart, like what you said earlier. Mm-hmm. She says, all the while you think you're building your dream, but in reality, your dream is building you.
Nice.
So what you just said,
yeah,
if you put it in a spiritual context, that's exactly what happened. You had this dream, this vision. You have to grow into that dream, that vision. And you're doing it because you're being self-reflective. You're asking yourself, what is it about me that I need to change to make this dream a reality? So you're right in the middle of that process of dream manifestation, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So again, if you don't do anything else, if you don't get anything out of this conversation, get that book because I know there's a message in it for you. But it really speaks exactly to the whole point of having dreams in the first place. Because I believe dreams are simply, and you can call it God, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but I call it source. Source gives us ideas, and it's our responsibility to tap into those ideas and allow source to move through us to manifest that idea.
That's huge. That's huge.
And we've got to do the work. I mean, because it's really about us growing into who we need to be to manifest that vision. So
that's huge.
That's really amazing. And I really, really resonate with your story because I've lived it. I've lived it, and I'm just smiling because I know when source energy is telling me this message is for you.
Yeah,
Ashante, this is for you.
Yeah.
So I'm real clear on that. So
no, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. And I think that's something that I'm constantly having to tell myself when I come up with these big ideas. I'm like, what are you thinking about? Like, what are you thinking? Like, you're gonna have another big idea, right? How do you got space for this other big idea? But I'm like, it's so real. Like, it's like that when the idea comes, it's like, oh, I gotta figure out how to do this, right? Because and it's all connected to the work. It's not like a new idea that's over there. It's like an idea that's connected to the work, and it helps to elevate the work. And I'm like, and you're right. It's gonna build like the podcast that we're gonna start pretty soon. Like I've been like, how am I gonna do that? And I'm realizing the only way I'm gonna do it is do it. Right? I'm not gonna. It's not gonna come to me. I'm gonna have to do it, and so it's gonna have to build me to learn how to do the skills. What are the skills? What are the platforms? What are the structure and all that? And so that has been definitely that resonates in a big way.
So are you ready to accept the miracle?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready.
All
yeah,
right,
I'm ready.
So you had an idea to do this podcast, right?
Yeah.
You're doing this amazing work in the world. So you have this idea. Now, don't you think it's amazing that you are now connected with someone who does podcasts, who does radio shows, who's done television shows, who is ready and willing to partner with you?
Oh man.
So do you think this is an accident?
Oh man. I think not. I think not. Oh.
Right. So get that. That's how the universe works.
Oh
Okay.
man. Thank you.
We are connected by divine appointment. So I'm really looking forward to see what's next for us. So
that's so exciting.
All right, so let's go. We're going to finish this interview. I'm so excited now.
Right on.
But I want you to just, you've talked about your program starting, you were teaching, you got these kids to come in, but give us some logistics for someone who may be listening and they may want to know, so exactly how does this program work? Do they meet once a week? What is it? How does it work right now? So just kind of share that. Yeah.
So our program starts with, if a school wants to bring us in, they bring us in first for a workshop called Taking Off the Mask. So that's that's what we first created in the documentary, this workshop, and it's grown since then, but it's called Taking Off the Mask. So the way that we tell them is like, find the students who you want to be in part of this workshop. And from those students, at the end, we do a survey and they say, well, are you interested in being a part of some brotherhood like this? And then after we get those students, then we're already training either somebody on their school site to be the mentor, because the mentor is the person who's going to work with the young men on a weekly basis. And so when they have the mentor working with them on a weekly basis, that's a person who needs to just kind of know how to hold space for them, right? Because our job is not to fix them. Our job is not to project stuff on them. Our job is just to hold space, let them get to the place where they're ready to start talking about the stuff, so it becomes this kind of healing space for them. So basically we come in, we do the workshop, and then we train a teacher or mentor or somebody on their school site, because we want to make sure that young men, if there's a problem on Monday, but for example, their meeting is not till Thursday, they don't have to wait for the mentor to show up, because that's 4 days of meltdown that could cause a lot of problems with our young men. So we want somebody on site that they could go to right away and get support. And so having that person on campus, it just becomes this safety net for these young men who sometimes they don't need to go to the office. They don't need to go to the office and get escalated. They need somebody that they can talk to and let some of the steam off in a way that's healthy. And so that's how our main program works. So the Everforward the club works first with the training for the young men, and we ask the men who are going to be there to also be a part of that training. And then we take them, and then they go through a weekly process where they work with a mentor to go over many topics, how health and well-being and fitness and finance and just idea of dreams and goals and who do you want to be in the world and values and, setting up your own borders and boundaries around what things you will do and won't do. So those are just like the ongoing work. But I think that what we make sure that the club setting is set up for is that whatever the young men need, that's what the meetings are about. Because it's not, we have a curriculum, but if today there's young men who are dealing with some stuff because some trauma in the community has happened, the curriculum is moved to the side because we need to help them process that stuff. Like the curriculum is never at the mercy of what the young men need. The young men guide what the space needs to hold, and that has been the best thing we could have done. And so then when some schools are saying, now we're getting more bold in what we request from schools. We're saying, look, we will come in and do the workshop for your students, but you need to bring us in and do a workshop for the teachers also. Because we can start helping the young people start processing and dealing with their some emotional well-being. But if the teachers are still doing some of those oppressive behaviors, kind of like dominating behaviors, and they're not giving young people space to breathe and be themselves, then the same stuff is going to show up again. Same.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're now saying to schools, you bring us in for a workshop for the young people. We also need to do a workshop for the educators, because the educators got to know how sometimes they trigger some of those behaviors that they don't want to see, but they may not even realize how they trigger them. And so
Right.
I think, yeah. And so those are like some of us being more bold and saying, here's what we require from the school side so that we can make, so it can be more successful, only for the goal of making it more successful.
Got it. Perfect. Perfect. Now, is the program only for males?
So the club right now, we only have for young men. So what we have is when we do workshops, we can do workshops for young women. We have some trainers that can do workshops. We don't have a woman on our team who helps us build out that, but our vision is that by 2019, maybe 2020 at the latest, we're going to begin building out the Young Women's Club. For 5 years back in the early 2008, 2009, we had Young Women's Circles, and they're really powerful when young men can hear from young women in a healthy way, healthy environment about how they show up, about what they see, about the behaviors that cause the young women to feel unsafe and unprotected. And so I think that having those healthy dialogues is really important. But we haven't yet had that built out. Like so we don't have a woman on our team. I can't create that curriculum. So we need to begin bringing someone in who's going to help us to fortify that. And so, but the workshops that we do them for everyone. The workshops, the 100,000 Mask Challenge, that's for everyone all over the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So overview. Ever Forward is a powerful program designed specifically to empower young men, targeted specifically at, but not limited to, men of color. And Ashante, in my opinion, has created something that, as I mentioned earlier, is really the solution to a lot of challenges we face in our society. And unfortunately, we get so tied up into the media, we buy into this idea that the world is going to hell in a handbasket. But I see it a little differently, because when I see people like Ashante, who are, taking some bold actions to change the world, see, that's how the world changes. It's not by politicians and governments. It's about people with vision.
Yeah. So
Ashante, I want to acknowledge you for having that vision. And so I want to give you an opportunity to appeal to the audience and share why you think people should donate, because I want people to donate to your organization. That's what this whole is about. I want people to get involved and to donate. So here's your opportunity to speak to the audience and say, this is why you should commit to making an investment in Ever Forward so that we can make the world a better place.
Yeah, thank you for that. When I left my engineering career to become a teacher, I was clear that the world and the earth was calling me to do what I was born to do. And I'm not asking anyone out there to change their career if that's not what's calling you to do. But you have an opportunity to join alongside of us and help change the lives of young people. What we see when young men come to our program and we see them come in a space of like believing that no one could ever understand what they're going through. And then within an hour and a half of our workshop, come to a place of like opening up to other students in their classes to know that I'm not alone. Like there are other people dealing with some stuff too. Like we have been able to do that. That's the work that I was put here to do. And so what we're asking people to do is to get involved, to donate to our work, because what we are doing is doing the work that we are exceptionally qualified to do. And I think that one of the things that is also helpful is that if you're out there and you're thinking, you know what, that's a really good thing. I'm glad you're doing that. To know that wherever you are, wherever you find yourself on the journey of passion and living your purpose, maybe this is not what you're built to do, but you can support it. Like you can get involved. We have the 100,000 Mask Challenge that we have been offering to the world about giving people space to take off their mask, about thinking about what is it that I show the world about myself. What are the things I don't talk about? And they give people, we had 20,000 people to make masks for us. And what we see all over the world, whether we're in Australia, whether we're in Oakland, whether we're in Canada, or whether we're in Colombia, that people are clear that there's a part of myself I have to show and a part of myself I don't get to talk about. And so we have been able to create some resources and tools for people to get really clear and not feel alone, not feel like they're isolated, not feel like they have to live in a quiet desperation. And our work is suited to do that. And so we ask you to join alongside of us, get involved with us, follow the work that we're doing. Whether you want to release your treasure or whether you want to release your time or talents, we want you to get involved and see how we together can help change the future for our young people and for adults. So we look forward to having you join our team.
And so where can people find you to make a donation?
You can go to everforwardclub.org, and in the top right-hand corner, there's a button that says donate. So everforwardclub.org, and you can see what we're up to, but there's a button right there that will say donate. And we look forward to partnering with you and having you, stay as a part of our community as we build this work.
Okay, perfecto. So there you have it. So now I'd like to give you an opportunity just to share any final thoughts you have with the audience.
Yeah, right now, the big work that is really pushing our work forward around the world is the 100,000 mask challenge. So we have a goal of collecting 100,000 masks from all over the world. And we'd like to ask you to make a mask and submit it to the campaign. When you go to our website, you will see a link for 100K masks, 100,000 masks. And so we ask you to, if you have kids, you have family, to, take a piece of paper and make the mask and do it with them and submit the mask to us as a part of the campaign, and see other masks that we have on our website that are young people, young and old from all over the world. And so that's what we want people to do right now. We have a big goal. Like, I don't know 100,000 people, but with you all out there and you telling people about it and you experiencing it, we can hit this goal this year. And so we're looking forward to getting you involved, and we look forward to you being a part of this movement, because the more that we can help our young people. If you don't know, I don't like a lot of statistics, but I'll give you one. There are 93% of the people who slept in cages last night in jail were men in the United States, 93%. And so we need to begin supporting our boys when they're younger and giving them space to talk about the stuff in healthy ways so that they don't end up adults who have to be locked in cages. And I think that the work that we're trying to do is trying to work upstream. We're trying to work before they get in trouble, before they have to have a record. We're trying to work before they have fallen down the wrong road. That's what we're trying to do. So we want you to be involved. You may think making a mask is too simple, but I want you to just believe that the simple things are sometimes the most impactful. And so we really appreciate
So explain to them, when you say make a mask.
Yeah.
What exactly are you saying you want them to do? Explain that real quickly.
Yeah. So what we have is we have a tool called the 100,000 mask challenge. So the card looks like this. And so basically it's like a postcard, and you can do it on a regular sheet of paper. But what we ask people to do, there's 3 steps. We ask you to draw a mask here. Then we ask you to write 3 words on the side of the mask where are the things you let people see about you. What are the qualities and characteristics you gladly let people see? And then on the back of the mask, these are things that we normally don't talk about, that we normally don't let people see. And what we ask you to do is, once you've done that, to just take a picture of it, send a text, an email to us, and let it join the global campaign. And what we found with these masks from around the world is that we have been able to see, and when people see masks of other people, they recognize, oh, wow, like this is a young man or young woman, this age group, they're feeling the same stuff that I'm feeling. And it begins to help you recognize you're not alone. Because if you're operating like no one would understand you, you probably won't talk about it with anyone. But if you recognize that people are all going through stuff that we've been told we have to mask, then we may not ever get help and support around the things that are really deeply passionate to us. So that's the 100,000 mask challenge.
Yeah, and for the audience, I just want to share a mask that I used to wear. I used to wear a mask called Mr. Nice Guy. And what I did is I pretended that everything was always okay. No matter how much pain I was in, no matter what I was going through, I was always smiling. Everything was okay. But behind that mask was a lot of sadness, a lot of fear. And so I had to be willing to take that Mr. Nice Guy mask off and deal with those feelings of fear and sadness in order for me to become authentic. Yeah. And that's what this whole process is about. When we remove those masks and get to the core of who we are, we become free. We become authentic. And that's what we want, because when you look at society and all the challenges that we have, and you see the people that are causing what we may call bad things,
Yeah.
It's because they've got a mask on. I guarantee you, there's something that they're covering up. And so I think in order to change society, we've got to recognize that we need to change our way of looking at people's behavior versus judging and condemning, but asking ourselves, what mask are they wearing?
Yeah.
Because if we can do that, I believe we can literally change the world.
I believe that too.
So I just want to acknowledge you, man, for the incredible dude that you are and for the work you're doing. And you are definitely shattering Black male stereotypes. And I'm so honored and proud to have this opportunity to connect with you. And once again, I recognize that this is by divine appointment. And I'm just really looking forward to what's in the future because I already know some pretty amazing things. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
You are, my man. You inspire me. My man crush is even deeper now.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
So,
I'm looking forward to being in touch.
I wish you continued success with all your endeavors and your programs. And again, you have a partner and a brother here in Texas. And like I said, we're going to be doing some amazing things together. And so in closing, for the audience, I want to leave you with a quote from Frederick Douglass. And he said, "It is easier to raise healthy children than to repair broken men." And that's exactly what Ashante is doing. So let's make a donation today and help him raise those healthy children so we don't have to repair the broken men. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in that section.
Thank you.